Let us quickly look at the board right now, just so we know exactly where the pieces are standing before the game changes. Jacinda Bracken recently made a massive, reckless mistake by trying to drug Willow Kane's drink. Michael Corinthos, being the fiercely protective force he is, stepped in immediately. He paid Jacinda a hefty sum of money and sent her packing out of town to protect his family. She vanished, seemingly taking the cash and running. Meanwhile, Laura Collins is preparing to head over to Ireland to visit her husband, Kevin Collins. She is bringing her adorable grandson Ace along for what is supposed to be a heartwarming, peaceful family reunion. That is where the pieces currently sit. But this is just the starting point, guys. The board is set, but the pieces are about to be flipped completely upside down, and the fallout is going to be spectacular. So, where is this heading? The first future scenario we have to consider is the direct collision of these two seemingly unrelated storylines. Imagine Laura arriving in Ireland, exhausted from the long international flight, carrying little Ace in her arms, only to walk into Kevin's residence and find him in bed with Jacinda. This could lead to a catastrophic emotional fallout. In this scenario, we have to ask ourselves, how long has this been going on? Did Jacinda take Michael's payoff money and immediately fly to Ireland to be with Kevin? If that happens, the betrayal is twofold. Kevin is not just cheating on his devoted wife, he is cheating with a dangerous woman who actively tried to destroy the mother of Michael's children. The sheer audacity of using Michael's hush money to fund a romantic getaway with the mayor's husband is a twist that would send shockwaves through the entire Corinthos and Collins families. Let us take a moment to really visualize the gravity of this first future. Picture the scene. The misty, cold atmosphere of Ireland, perfectly. She opens that bedroom door, expecting to greet the man she has built a life with, the man who stood by her through the darkest chapters involving Ryan Chamberlain. Instead, she finds him entangled with a woman who represents the very chaos Laura has spent her life trying to escape. The silence in that room would be deafening. In that split second, decades of trust evaporate. The brilliance of this path is that it doesn't rely on explosions or gunfire. It relies on the devastating quiet of a broken vow. Laura's decision to simply turn around, holding Ace, the symbol of her family's future, and walk away is a testament to her evolution. She is no longer the naive girl who can be strung along by complicated men. She is a matriarch who knows exactly when to cut her losses and protect her own peace. Looking ahead, who benefits from this specific path? Strangely, Michael Corinthos might find himself in a position of unexpected power. If he discovers that his payoff money funded Kevin's illicit affair, he holds a massive secret over Kevin's head. He could leverage this information in ways we haven't even begun to imagine. On the flip side, who is in danger? Kevin's entire reputation and standing in Port Charles. Laura is beloved by almost everyone. If the town finds out he broke her heart in such a cruel, humiliating manner, he will be an absolute pariah. But the bigger consequence may be Laura's reaction. Instead of screaming, throwing things, or seeking petty revenge, this path suggests Laura takes the high road. She silently packs her bags, holds Ace tightly, and leaves Kevin in the dust, returning to Port Charles to quietly but firmly file for divorce. The story could be heading toward a beautiful, empowering arc for Laura where she refuses to be a victim of betrayal. She simply severs the tie, refusing to be bound to a man who could stab her in the back so callously. But what if we look at a second future? A completely different path that changes the entire narrative from a simple affair to a deeply rooted conspiracy. What if Jacinda and Kevin's relationship didn't just start after she left Port Charles? There is a chance that they have been secretly involved for years, long before Jacinda ever set foot in town to drug Willow. If you follow this thread, it changes the entire complexion of the storyline. Kevin goes from being a foolish husband making a terrible mistake to a calculating, manipulative mastermind who has been living a double life right under Laura's nose. This wouldn't just be a lapse in judgment. This would be a systemic, long-term deception that redefines everything we know about Dr. Kevin Collins. In this future, what if Kevin actually orchestrated Jacinda's arrival in Port Charles? What if he was the one pulling the strings behind her attempt to drug Willow? perhaps as some twisted psychological experiment or a favor to an unseen enemy. If that happens, Laura isn't just divorcing a cheater. She is divorcing a villain who has been playing a long game against the people she cares about. This would completely rewrite Kevin's history and character trajectory. It would mean Laura has been sleeping next to a stranger. The fallout here would be explosive, pulling Michael, Willow, and the entire Corinthos family into a massive, unavoidable war against Kevin and Jacinda. The divorce wouldn't be quiet, it would be a legal and psychological bloodbath. Laura would have to use every ounce of her political power and personal strength to dismantle Kevin's life. Not out of revenge, but out of absolute necessity to protect her family from a man who has proven to be a sociopathic liar. Furthermore, if we truly lean into this second future where Kevin is a long-term mastermind, we have to consider the legal ramifications of their impending divorce. If Kevin has been secretly funding Jacinda or orchestrating her moves in Port Charles, he has likely been hiding assets, manipulating joint accounts, and preparing for an eventual fallout. Laura wouldn't just be fighting for her emotional freedom. She would be fighting a brutal legal battle to protect her finances, her property, and her legacy. She would have to enlist the absolute best legal minds in Port Charles, perhaps Diane Miller or even Alexis Davis, to untangle the web of lies Kevin has woven. This path transforms the divorce from a simple separation into a high-stakes chess match where every single move is calculated, and the loser could lose absolutely everything they have built in Port Charles. Now, let us explore the third future. This is the wildest possibility, the one that few people are seeing coming, but it fits perfectly into the chaotic, unpredictable history of this show. What if the man in Ireland isn't actually acting of his own free will? We know Jacinda has a history of using chemical substances to get what she wants. She spiked Willow's drink without a second thought. What if she is using her skills with drugs and toxins to control Kevin? What if she has been secretly dosing him with a slow-acting neurotoxin or a mind-altering substance, manipulating his thoughts, and keeping him compliant in Ireland? In this scenario, Laura walks in on what looks like a passionate affair but is actually a terrifying hostage situation disguised as romance. This changes the entire dynamic. The story could be heading toward a massive rescue mission where Laura has to save the man who seemingly broke her heart, only to realize he was a victim all along. Imagine the psychological toll this would take on Laura. She would have to fight her own feelings of betrayal to uncover the medical truth behind Kevin's actions. This path would be an absolute roller coaster of emotions and would turn Jacinda into a top-tier, incredibly dangerous villain on the canvas. It would require the intervention of the WSB, Anna Devane, and the top medical minds at General Hospital to break Jacinda's chemical hold on Kevin. It is unexpected, it is dramatic, and it flips the script from a divorce drama into a high-stakes medical thriller. If you ask me, we need to look at the psychological core of these characters to see where the writers are truly taking us. The path that feels most likely, and honestly the most compelling for character growth, is the first one, but with a deep, profound emotional resonance. I keep coming back to the idea that Laura has survived so much trauma in her life, from Luke's endless chaos to Ryan Chamberlain's absolute terror. She doesn't need another convoluted kidnapping plot, a mind-controlled drug, or a secret mastermind twist to make her story interesting. She has lived through enough soap opera extremes to last 10 lifetimes. What she needs now is grounded, deeply human drama. The most heartbreaking and realistic future is simply that Kevin drifted away, Jacinda provided a temptation, and he failed the ultimate test of loyalty. If you ask me, seeing Laura react not with vengeance, but with profound dignity, is exactly what the audience needs right now. The path that makes the most sense is Laura looking at Kevin and Jacinda in that bed, feeling the knife twist in her heart, but refusing to let it break her spirit. She is the mayor of Port Charles. She is a survivor. She scoops up baby Ace, walks out the door without shedding a single tear in front of them, and decides that she is done being bound by a marriage that no longer serves her. A clean, undeniable divorce based on the simple, tragic reality of human betrayal. That is powerful television. It shows a woman who knows her worth and refuses to compromise it for a man who couldn't keep his vows. When we consider why this dignified path makes the most sense, we also have to look at how Port Charles will react to Laura's decision. The town looks up to her, When she returns from Ireland, files the papers, and holds her head high, she sets a new standard for resilience. She doesn't need to smear Kevin's name in the tabloids. His own actions will eventually come to light and destroy him organically. By focusing entirely on providing a safe, loving environment for Ace, Laura proves that true strength lies in moving forward, not in dragging the past through the mud. This approach honors the legacy of her character. It tells the audience that no matter how deep the betrayal, a person can always choose grace over vengeance. It is a narrative choice that elevates Laura to an almost untouchable status in the soap opera world. But we cannot stop there, guys. The story does not end with a divorce paper being signed and filed at the courthouse. If that scenario happens, what comes next? The next shockwave will ripple through the entire town of Port Charles like a seismic event. If Laura divorces Kevin, she is suddenly a free, powerful, independent woman with a massive amount of influence. Does she dive entirely into her political career, becoming an unstoppable force who shapes the future of the city without any distractions? Does she channel all her grief and energy into raising Ace, ensuring that the Cassadine and Collins shadows never touch him? And what about Kevin and Jacinda? If Laura leaves them in Ireland, do they eventually return to Port Charles to claim Kevin's assets? Imagine the sheer tension if Jacinda parades around town on Kevin's arm, demanding a piece of the pie and acting like she won the ultimate prize. Michael Corinthos would absolutely lose his mind seeing the woman he paid off returning as the new missus. Collins, he might launch his own vendetta against her, dragging the Corinthos cartel into a war of attrition against Kevin. The bigger consequence may be the battle for Ace's environment. Laura will fight tooth and nail to ensure her grandson is raised in a stable, loving home, far away from the toxicity of Kevin and Jacinda's betrayal. Looking ahead, this divorce is not an ending. It is the spark that will ignite a massive territorial and emotional war in Port Charles. The future consequences of this one trip to Ireland will redefine families, shift alliances, and create a brand new era for Laura. We just have to buckle up and watch the shockwaves hit, because Port Charles is never going to be the same once Laura makes her move. Finally, we have to think about the long-term character trajectories if this storyline unfolds. What happens to Kevin? If he loses Laura, he loses his anchor to humanity and respectability in Port Charles. Without her, he is just a man who made a pathetic, unforgivable choice. His practice at General Hospital could suffer, his relationships with his peers would disintegrate, and he would be left with nothing but Jacinda, a woman who has already proven to be motivated by money and chaos. How long until Jacinda turns on him? How long until the money Michael paid her runs out and she starts looking for her next target? The tragedy of Kevin's choice will play out over years, serving as a cautionary tale for every other character on the canvas. Meanwhile, Laura's trajectory points straight up. She could find new love, forge new political alliances, and solidify her position as the ultimate unshakable cornerstone of Port Charles. The possibilities are truly endless, and that is exactly why we need to keep our eyes glued to the screen.
Goodbye. Please like, subscribe, and comment on the GH Spoilers Daily channel.